Thank you for watching this video of the middle class scholarship portion of the regional trainings. Students enrolled at a UC or CSU whose income exceeds the limits for a Cal Grant A or B will automatically be considered for the middle class scholarship if they applied on time with the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. In order to be eligible, students must be enrolled at least half-time in their first undergraduate program, meaning they cannot have previously earned a bachelor's degree. Only students who have less than 35% of their UC or CSU fees covered by grants and scholarships are eligible to receive the middle class scholarship. Additionally, students' income and assets must be less than or equal to $191,000 for the 2021-2022 year. Remember, students are also considered for middle class scholarship upon successfully completing an on-time FAFSA or DREAM Act application. No additional application is needed. Sometimes students do not apply for aid because they believe their family makes too much money to get an award, but that is not always the case. It is important that we encourage all students to apply for financial aid early so that they get consideration for all programs. For students to be eligible, they must complete their financial aid application by the priority filing deadline of March 2nd. The school then must submit to the Commission an enrollment file with the student's information. With these two components, the awarding process will begin. A new enrollment file is necessary for students to be considered if they become eligible after they had been originally found to be financially ineligible or withdrawn. MCS is available to students attending a UC, CSU, or California Community College bachelor degree program. Now we will talk about the awarding process. You can see the following scenarios from this flowchart: an on-time FAFSA or DREAM Act application plus the college enrollment record is what triggers web grants to process the application for award consideration. If awarded, colleges submit corrections and payments via the roster or a batch upload. The correction and payment transactions submitted during the week result in the following three reports, which should be reviewed weekly. The first one is the Accept/Reject report. The second is payment activity. The third is student reconciliation. In addition to reviewing these three reports, schools should also check the Award Reject report to identify awarded students whose awards were rejected due to a discrepancy between the MCS enrollment data and the FAFSA or DREAM Act application data. These records must be resolved in order to reinstate the award. The Commission has eliminated the admission file process. This was used upon inception of the middle class scholarship in the 2014-2015 academic year to assist in award projections. However, the Commission has now collected enough historical data and no longer needs the admission files. Enrollment records can be submitted weekly starting July 1st, the beginning of the academic year. Most schools utilize the batch file upload process, and the enrollment files are processed weekly. Manual enrollment records can only be submitted if no other enrollment record has been submitted for that academic year. The only way to reprocess a previously awarded student is through the file upload process. As stated earlier, students enrolled in a bachelor program offered by 15 participating California community colleges are eligible, and their school also must submit an enrollment file for students to be considered for this award. Currently, the enrollment file submission process for California community colleges is a manual submission. First, schools email a list of potentially eligible students and provide the data shown on this bulleted list. The Commission will then review and process each student record to determine MCS eligibility. For any of the 15 community colleges that offer the bachelor programs, if your student is found eligible for MCS, the Commission will provide you with the MCS roster template. The school will then use this template to load the required student data and will upload the file via the WebGrants Secure File Transfer method. Finally, after uploading the enrollment file, the community college will email CSAC to notify us that the file was uploaded. After processing the data submitted by the school, CSAC will determine the award and payment amounts and will re-upload the MCS roster via the secure file transfer. CSAC will then notify the school, which in turn downloads the roster and can begin the processing of payments. The student enrollment screen allows WebGrants users to view the information that was submitted to the Commission on the enrollment file. Another piece of information that can be found on this screen is the student's enrollment status. Students' records will reflect one of three statuses. The first is blank. A blank status indicates that the student was rejected from an enrollment file. For example, the school may have already included that student on a previous upload, or the student may not be awarded, or is otherwise not on the roster. The second status is pending. A pending status indicates the student was not processed through the awarding cycle. This is due to one of two reasons. The first is that there is a discrepancy between the information submitted in the enrollment file and the information contained on the financial aid application. The second is that the Commission already has an enrollment file for that student uploaded by another school. This situation would require working with the Commission to resolve. The third status is found in roster. Found in roster indicates that the student is on the MCS roster and no further enrollment files will be processed for this student. This is a screenshot of the student enrollment screen showing the enrollment status found in roster. After a student has been processed for award consideration, the student will be assigned one of three award statuses: awarded, financially ineligible, and withdrawn. If your student record does not populate on the award summary screen after submitting an enrollment file, it means one of three things. 1. Either the enrollment file was rejected, 2. The student record has been pended, or 3. No enrollment record was submitted. If the enrollment file was rejected, the school can confirm the reason it rejected by using the MCS Enrollment Process Eligibility Summary Report. If the record has been pended, you will need to verify the information contained in your file compared to the information on the student's financial aid application. The Student Award Summary screen shows a year-by-year history and lists annual and per-term award amounts. It also shows the student education level and eligibility percentage of the total used and remaining eligibility. Now we will talk about if you need to make a correction to a student's middle class scholarship. After selecting a student from the full roster student list, WebGrants will open the individual student record where payments and corrections are reported. It is broken into 4 sections: student demographics, transactions, annual data, and term data. The student demographics section contains information such as the CSAC ID, education level, eligibility, the year entered the MCS program, and the TCP or 5th year indicator. Next, the annual data section is where information can be updated at an annual level, which we will cover in the next slide. Please note, CSAC staff only have read-only access, and we cannot override your transactions or even submit enrollment records on a school's behalf. Annual level changes will have an effect on the overall award. Change submitted at this level may recalculate the student's award offer. You should exclude Cal Grant awards when reporting state aid. This is because the Commission's MCS and Cal Grant Sync job will check automatically for Cal Grants that have been awarded to MCS awardees. Please review the MCS Cal Grant Sync report for any students whose awards were adjusted or modified due to the Sync job. If you are processing changes through the payment upload process, Field 42 on the payment roster file record layout is where you will be able to indicate if your submission is a correction by using C in this field. If submitting the correction on the roster, please use the eligibility dropdown to make the correction fields active, as we will see on the next slide. Submitting annual level changes such as total income and other aid, federal, institutional, and state, will trigger the recalculation of the MCS award for the entire academic year. 2 exceptions are when updating the ICER number or TCP 5th year. These changes will not recalculate the student's award. If no payments have been reported and you select Post-Bac, SAP, Not Enrolled, Other, or Over Asset Ceiling, the student's MCS award will be withdrawn. If a payment has been made, the transaction will reject until all payments have been reversed. Just like annual level changes, term level changes allow updates to fields such as tuition and fees and other aid, federal, state, and institutional, and will recalculate the student's award, but only for that specific term. To reinstate a term award that was previously corrected and withdrawn, rekey the new information. This will cause the system to recalculate the term information and re-award the student if eligible. Please note, if the campus tries to apply both an ineligible status to a term and a regular payment to the same student, the transaction will reject, even though the payment radio button is used to apply the ineligible status. WebGrants considers this an adjustment, since it is selected from the adjustment reason code field, as we'll see on the next slide. Only one type of transaction is allowed. To submit a term level correction, you will select the Correction Radio button. This will allow you to choose the adjustment reason code from the drop-down. Selecting eligibility will allow you to make changes to other aid, while selecting fees will allow you to update the tuition and fees for the selected term. Lastly, the Term Data section will allow users to apply payments and corrections for each term for which the student is eligible to receive an MCS payment. Users can adjust the payment to half-time or three-quarter time enrollment, or can report a $0 payment without altering the term award amount by using the Refund Adjusted Payment option from the drop-down. Not enrolled and less than half-time are reported using the Enrollment Status field. Both of these payment types will reduce the term award amount to 0. Now we will talk about middle-class scholarship payments. When reporting payments, schools have 5 payment options. The first one is full-time pay. This selection will apply a payment equal to the term award amount and will use full-time eligibility. Full-time eligibility used at a semester school is 50%, and at a quarter-based school it is 33.33%. The second option is half-time pay. This selection will apply a payment equal to the term award amount and will use half-time eligibility. Half-time eligibility used at a semester school is 25% and 16.67% at a quarter-based school. The next option is less than half-time, do not pay, which applies a $0 payment and zeroes out the award amount. No eligibility is used. The next option is not enrolled, and this also applies a $0 payment but keeps their overall award intact. No eligibility is used. Refund and adjusted payment means that this allows for a school to make payment that is less than a term award amount to be applied but uses full-time eligibility unless a payment of $0 is applied. Please note that for half-time pay, campuses should reduce the tuition and fees prior to applying the payment. If not, the student will be paid at the full term award amount but will only use half of the eligibility for the term. If the student had their tuition and fees reduced based on half-time status, then the campus also needs to reduce the tuition and fees on the roster. This will recalculate the award at a lower amount. Then the campus can apply the half-time payment. The majority of campuses still charge the full tuition and fees, so this method is suggested in those cases where the student is being charged a lower tuition and fees. Payments and corrections are processed twice a week on Tuesday nights and over the weekend. The best practice is to review your accept-reject report on Wednesdays and Mondays after transactions have been processed. Here is a screenshot of the payment screen and enrollment status options in the updated version of WebGrants. The Student Payment History screen displays any payments or corrections that have been submitted and processed by the Commission. Recertified payments occur when a student has been paid and then after reporting a payment, the school applies a correction at either the annual or term level. The correction then triggers a recalculation of the student's award. As a result of the recalculation, the revised award amount will override the previously reported payment. Here is a screenshot from the roster. The red font in the bracket displays the most current term level information. This includes payment and adjustment types, tuition and fees, federal, institutional, and state aid. Here are some tips and recommendations for reconciliation. We suggest reconciling weekly or monthly by utilizing the reports, the payment activity, and student reconciliation. Please review recertified payments weekly or monthly, and you can use the export function from the roster screen. The reconciliation deadline is September of each processing year, and you can refer to the MCS guide and roster layout for specific scenarios. Now we will review the middle class scholarship reports available on web grants. To access the reports, you will click on Report Download from the MCS section on the home page of the updated version of web grants. There are 7 different reports to assist in the administration of middle class scholarship. On this slide, you will find descriptions of 4 of the reports: the Enrollment File Report, Award Rejects, Roster File Report, and MCS Cal Grant Sync. Here are the last 3 reports available: the Accept Reject Report, which should be resolved weekly, the Payment Activity Report, used during the reconciliation process, and the Student Reconciliation Report. The Payment and Corrections Guide contains a wealth of information for those who administered the Middle Class Scholarship Program. Some of the topics that are covered in our guide include annual and term level changes, payment and correction scenarios, reject reason codes, and the MCS reports. Also, in the back, there are 12 common issues and the related actions that you can take to correct these issues. This section is particularly helpful and likely addresses many of the payment scenarios that can stump financial aid officers. The payment roster file record layout is located on our website. Coming soon in fall 2021, a new and more comprehensive MCS user guide will replace the Payment and Corrections Guide. This will be announced through our listserv. Please engage with us on social media. We post important updates and deadlines for schools and students. Please check out our websites for more information. If you have any questions, please contact school support by phone or email.